story right here, right now. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunez giving Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein until 5 o'clock today to hand over information regarding the FBI's potential use of informants in the Trump campaign. Here now, Byron York, one of our favorite guests, chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner, a Fox News contributor. Byron, will Nunez ever get all of the documents that he wants? Because he seems to set these deadlines but never gets everything. What do you say?
It's another day, another deadline. You're actually right. I think clearly he's pretty angry about this latest response. Remember last week, the Speaker of the House threatened legal action against the Justice Department if they didn't turn over everything, told them to give it to him by the end of the week, and Nunez got a letter from the FBI at 11:10 p.m. on Friday night. So I think he kind of feels the FBI is thumbing its nose at him. But if you read this letter that Nunez wrote in response, he's irritated about a number of things. But the big question is, did the FBI use informants against the Trump campaign? If so, how many? And did it pay them? That's the question he's trying to get answered, and so far has not gotten answered.
Do you think he'll get answers, though? Because you do have this ongoing, Judge Napolitano was talking about it, this ongoing investigation by the special counsel. And so there's some legal issues.
It depends on whether the Speaker Paul Ryan, gets deeply involved in this and what the President does as well. I think it's pretty clear that the Justice Department has made it clear that it will ignore what a single committee chairman does, even if it's the chairman of the committee. But if the Speaker of the House threatens some sort of punishment with the House acting as a whole, and certainly if the President says he wants to declassify something, then we will find it out. But it has been like pulling teeth.
Well, I want to get your reaction to this. Speaking of the President Trump tweeting earlier on the document turnover, I have tried to stay uninvolved with the Department of Justice and FBI, although I do not legally have to, because of the now totally discredited and very expensive witch hunt currently going on. But you do have to ask why the DOJ and FBI aren't giving over requested documents. What is in the president's power, Byron, that he could do? Because you did talk about declassification.
Well, he could do some sort of blanket declassification if he wants. I think maybe a model would be, remember that House memo, the House Intelligence Committee memo of several months back, where they put together information about the dossier and it's being used to get a wiretap on Carter Page. They basically wrote this document based on what they knew. They said, we're going to make this public. They voted on it. The FBI went nuts. They made a few changes on behalf of the FBI, and then the president declassified it. So if there could be some sort of process where there wasn't just some sort of willy-nilly declassification, but some specific information needs to be seen by the public, then the president could do that.
I'm going out on a limb, and this is going to sound like a conspiracy theory, but the behavior by the DOJ and the FBI, and certainly what you read in from some of the press, is essentially goading the president. They're trying to push him and needle him into doing something rash and drastic. Do you buy that?
I don't know exactly what they're
do you see what I'm saying, though? Is like the narrative has been he's going to fire Bob Muller. How many times has that question been screamed at White House briefings? And I just wonder if there's something amiss.
Oh, I do think, well, the fire Bob Mueller thing, on the part of Democrats and some people in the press, you're exactly right. They've thrown that out almost as if they're daring the president to do it. What the Justice Department is doing, I mean, obviously, Republicans think the Justice Department must have something to hide because they're hiding this all the time. On the other hand, there are institutional imperatives when you have one branch of government banging up against the other branch of government. That's clearly what we've got now. And you do have, let's remember what Judge Napolitano said, you do have a Mueller investigation, and perhaps the point that some of this stuff has to remain secret as long as that investigation is active. And
the FBI is hiding something because, again, that text message from Peter Strzok about getting rid of Donald Trump, that was hidden. The IG only got that in May, but using Department of Defense technology to uncover it. So there is that effort to hide something.
And that was not giving it over to the Inspector General, not even just to Congress. That's something that members of Congress are really suspicious about, because, in that exchange between Strzok and Page had said, Donald Trump's not going to become president, is he? And the next line was, no, we'll stop it. And the question was handed over to Congress. But the answer, which is perhaps the most incendiary of all the Strzok-Page texts, was not. And people are really, really suspicious about that. It does not help the FBI when it claims to be turning over everything.
Byron, so Peter Strzok, what happens this week in terms of him testifying? Because I actually quoted one of your tweets about how this dude, you didn't use the word dude, but he is the linchpin, leading the Hillary Clinton email server investigation, and then moving on to the Trump Russia investigation, winding up on the Mueller team, only kicked off of that team and kicked into human resources when these text messages were uncovered by the Inspector General.
Well, Strzok is, through his lawyer, is apparently volunteering to testify. And you're right. I think the point here is the members of Congress, if they do get Peter Strzok in front of them answering questions, should probably not spend a huge amount of time on bias and, beating him up over bias. It's like, you don't like Trump. We know that. We get it. Instead, this man, Peter Strzok, is the source of all information as far as the FBI Trump-Russia investigation is concerned. Ask him about the dossier. Ask him about the informants. Ask him about the so-called electronic communication which started the whole thing. Ask him about all of this stuff. He was in the middle of it all.